Hey everyone, I'm super excited to finally announce my art book is officially out. It's something I spent a big portion of this year working on, and it's a big labor of love. I've been teaming up together with 3D Total to make this a reality, and we're finally live with the book itself. There'll be a link in the description below where if you're interested you can go check it out, but I want to talk a bit briefly like the ideas behind it and some of the rewards we'll be offering. So the book itself is really about my journey as an artist, the things the ups and downs I went through, and I think a lot of us as artists, we experienced a lot of them, and I wanted to share mine and things I learned from it. Also, I want to share useful tips and tricks whenever you make your own art, things that I can hope help you when you make your own paintings. Also, I'm going to share in the book itself a lot of artwork I never shared before, sketches and drawings that never been posted anywhere. And maybe my favorite chapter in the book is actually where I go a bit more in depth into my personal project. It's something I spent years working on and tried a lot of different ways and a lot of different experimentation to try and bring it to life, and failed a lot of times. But I'm super excited to talk a bit more about that, share the process, and kind of like where it ended up. And in the Kickstarter itself, like I mentioned earlier, we'll be offering a few limited exclusive rewards tied only to this Kickstarter. So if you see something you might be interested in, be sure to check it out. And to celebrate the launch of the book itself, I thought it'd be fun to make a painting with some of the main characters from my personal project. So I thought it'd be super fun to sort of go back to this drawing here on the left that I did a few years back, but I was really happy when I did it because I felt this was the first time I was able to capture the personality and the feel of the characters from my personal project that I always want. I've tried so many times and every time it sort of goes wrong, but with that one I felt like I finally captured what I wanted. So I thought it'd be fun. Try to do a reimagining but keeping the essence of it. I really wanted to make sure that she's still squishing him, almost like he's a pillow, but if he was more of a living thing she can't squish him that hard. But somehow I always think of Toki as like just a big fluffy pillow, so she's sort of squishing him. And the dog Ulf is, I thought it'd be fun since we're celebrating the launch of the art book itself, I thought it'd be fun if he's holding the book itself in his mouth. The original idea, I was also thinking maybe Toki's holding the book in his hand, but it was looking a bit weird, and like because he doesn't really have any thumbs or anything, so him for holding something, it always looks a bit uncanny valley, I guess you could say. So it's just easier putting it in the dog's mouth. So with the image itself, I was thinking like I really wanted to be bright and warm colors, you know, like a sunny day, and I really wanted to frame the characters very centralized in the image, similar to the drawing of where they're standing together. I wanted them to be the very center of the image and make sure they pop out. So because of that, I decided to put like a big puff of clouds behind them. And I was looking at a lot of like Japanese countryside and stuff, and I'm not sure why this tends to happen, but in Japan, like clouds has a very specific way of forming. I guess it's based on the location where things are, but they're sort of like these huge puffy things you always see in Japanese animation. Because where I grew up, clouds are very different, and living in California I also realized the clouds are also very different. So it's something I just think just looks visually appealing, and it's kind of cool, you know, like just a big puff behind them. And I'm trying to stay, as always, a bit zoomed out because I'm just really looking to get the big picture of the image to make sure everything reads and feels balanced. The more comfortable I get with the image, the closer I tend to get, and usually I try to keep my layers more grouped up and very flat, and really just keeping characters separate. But for this painting in particular, I sort of knew, because the way I wanted to paint it, I needed to keep the character in one layer, the cloud and the sky in a separate one, and then we break down the sort of the stairs she's standing on into one group and the one behind it into separate one. Because later on in the process, I introduced a bit more atmosphere, and I sort of knew that ahead of time. That's sort of why it's always good if you have some sort of plan of how you want to approach your painting. If you can just plan a bit ahead of time, it really helps with the way you break down the layers. I could have flattened it, but the problem was there's just some overlapping elements, just made it easier to just break it down into just a few more groups. And clouds are probably one of my favorite things to paint because you can be fairly abstract. It's just like a big puff of ice cream almost. And you just need to make sure they feel very soft. Because if you look at the edges and the forms of the cloud compared to the rest of the image, I'm trying to be very loose with the edges and make sure they're not too rigid to really give off that cloudy feel. Because if you could make it much more graphical and sharper if that's your personal taste. But I think for me, like always whenever I paint clouds or things that are very clearly a different material or feel, I try to visualize it with my brush strokes as well. She sort of ended up in this direction, the characters that ended up in the book, because a few years back, like I never shared these images, maybe one day I'll share them, but the whole characters and the IP and the world, it was very dark, you know. To give you some point of reference, like the main character Miranda, she was older and she sort of had like this dragon attached to her hand, and it was much more heavy into the fantasy genre. The current direction I'm going with, sort of all my work and the book itself is sort of like more contemporary, more day-to-day life, and I'd say definitely more heavily influenced by animation work. I just want to say again how excited I am to bring this book to life, because a few years back I sort of was doing a challenge where I created a painting every day for a year, and I put together all the painting together with a friend of mine into a digital book format. And I sort of wanted to make a hard copy back then, but because of time, and the idea was to get the book out on the day of the final challenge, it was just not possible to make a hard copy. And I was hoping a few years down the line that the same chance would come to make a hard copy book. And I'm so excited that it actually happened and I can share it with you. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you think there'll be if you're interested in Kickstarter, be sure to check out the link below. Maybe share it with a friend who might be interested to check it out. I just really appreciate all the support I've gotten throughout the years, and just watching this video, I really appreciate you taking the time to looking at it. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful day, and I see you next time. Have a good one. Bye.